Hey guys, this is Pharaoh2091 and welcome back to Let's Play 999. Last time we left off, we escaped from our room and we're going up the staircases, and we actually stumbled upon a couple people. And well, I guess that's where we left off, by looking at this girl and just kind of like just frozen by looking at her. I wonder why. He'd seen her somewhere before. He couldn't quite remember where, but he knew. He knew he met her before. The girl, too, stared at Junpei, similarly stunned. Her response suggested that she'd seen him before as well. Without saying a word, Junpei walked slowly towards her. She didn't move. It was almost as though she was held in place by some sort of magic spell. As Junpei stepped onto her landing, the spell broke. No sooner had he set his foot down than the whole ship shook a second time. Ah! The quake caught the girl unprepared, and she fell. Moving on instinct, Junpei leapt to catch her, or so he thought. Ooh, that sounded like a lot of bumping there. Her face was far closer than it should have been. Mere inches from his own. He was flat on his back, and she had landed squarely on top of him. The girl seemed as confused as he did, and her face suggested that she still hadn't fully recovered from seeing him. For a moment that seemed to stretch for a very long time, they stared at one another. The ship stopped shaking. Everything was quiet. Water could be heard from the bottom of the ship, lapping faintly at walls and ceilings, but eventually that faded as well. The silence was complete, a thick, muffling blanket. At last the girl opened her mouth. "Oh my gosh! Is that you, Jumpy?" Jumpy. Jumpy. Her words echoed through Junpei's head, and suddenly his memory returned. Akane? Or Akane? Or I think it's Akane. Akane. Japanese names, I guess. Why hadn't he realized it before? The girl was Akane Kurashiki. What? I think it's Akane or Kirashiki. I think. She and Junpei had been friends in childhood. They had gone to elementary school together for 6 years. But what was she doing on the ship? Her soft eyes were only inches away from his own. He could feel the warmth of her face. Feelings he thought long forgotten began to work their way to the surface. He could feel his face heating up. At that moment, a speaker crackled to life, and a cold, eerie voice filled the room. "Welcome aboard. I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart to this, my vessel." With the voice's invasion, the spell between Junpei and Akane was broken, and all hints of burgeoning romance instantly forgotten. They hurriedly untangled themselves from one another, and struggled to their feet. Their 7 companions had heard the voice as well, and many of their faces had gone pale. They looked around frantically, desperate to locate the source of the voice. At last they found it. A speaker sat in the ceiling. "I am Zero, the captain of this ship. I am also the person who invited you here." The voice was harsh, obscured occasionally by a crackle of static, but Junpei recognized it. How could he have forgotten it? It was the same voice he had heard from the man in the gas mask. "Hey, asshole! What the hell is this? Come on out here! I'm gonna get a look at you. What do you mean to do to us?" "I mean to have you participate in the game. Some of you, I know, are familiar with this game. The Notary game. It is a game where you will put your life on the line." "Notary game? What the hell's that?" The voice continued, implacable, implacable, whatever. "The rules of Notary game can be found upon your persons. They are simple rules. Read them." "Notary game? Hey, there's something in my pocket. Check this out." Silver reached into his pocket and pulled out a small slip of paper. The rest of them reached into their own pockets and pulled out similar slips of paper. Junpei followed suit and dug into the pocket of his pants. He felt the telltale crumble of paper, slightly damp from his earlier ordeal. "Hey, I got one too." It would seem Zero has seen fit to grace each of us with a letter. Would you mind terribly reading it to us, young man?" His request had been delivered to Junpei, who, after a short moment of surprise, did as he's been asked. On this ship, you will find a handful of doors emblazoned with numbers. We will call them the numbered doors. The doors in front of you are a pair of the same. The key to opening these numbered doors are the numbered bracelets that each of you possess. Should you total the numbers of your numbered bracelets and find that the digital root of that number is equal to the number of that door, the door will open. Only those who have opened a doorway may pass through. There are, however, limits. Only 3 to 5 people can pass through one numbered door. All those who enter must leave, and all who enter must contribute. Bracelet. Junpei figured had to mean a bulky thing on his wrist. He glanced around. It looked like everyone else had one as well, and had come much to the same conclusion. The purpose of the game is simple. Leave this ship alive. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Junpei had reached the end of the letter. There was a long moment of silence, and then the speaker crackled to life once more. There is one last thing I must tell you. As you have no doubt surmised, this ship has begun to sink. On April 14th, 1912, the famous ocean liner Titanic crashed into an iceberg. After remaining afloat for 2 hours and 40 minutes, it sank beneath the waters of the North Atlantic. I will give you more time. 9 hours. That is the time you will be given to make your escape. The voice finished, and the speaker went silent. The sound of a bell began tolling echoed through the hall. It came from the dance hall adjacent to the stairwell. It took those assembled at the stairs mere moments to trace the sound to an antique clock embedded in the wall. 7, 8, 9. The sound of the 9th bell faded away. The 10th never came. This meant the time was 9 o'clock. Most likely 9 o'clock in the evening. When Junpei had peered out the window of his cell, he'd seen nothing but blackness. It had to be nighttime. If that was the case, then they would need to escape by 6 a.m. the following day. Now it is time. Let our game begin. I wish you all the best of luck. The speaker went silent and did not speak again. Silver yelled at the speaker with language coarse enough to embarrass the sailor, but the rest of Junpei's companions were silent, deep in thought. Junpei, too, was consumed by his thoughts. There was a giant deal he didn't understand. Who was Zero? What was a notary game? Why had he chosen to make them part of it? Was he a criminal who took delight in playing with his victims? Or did he have some other purpose? And why had Junpei been chosen as part of this insane game? Had any of them been chosen? Why had any of them been chosen, I mean? But one question was foremost on his mind. Akane. They hadn't seen one another since elementary school. Why had she appeared now? Coincidence? No, that seemed impossible. There had to be a reason. He didn't know what it might be, but there had to be a reason. Very well. The lion's voice seemed oddly loud in the silence. Standing around here won't do us any good. Best we get moving, don't you think? Get moving? Are you planning to open the numbered doors? Hey, wait! Don't tell me you're actually gonna do what this Zero says. No, that's not what I mean. The lion shook his head, mightily annoyed. I'm saying, let's find another way. After all, we haven't really examined this place yet. What? Really now. I guess today I really didn't examine anything, but, time is passing here. Their separate investigations finished, all 9 people returned to where they left one another. The result of all their work was nothing. They were completely sealed in. Their hard work had not gone completely to waste, however. They had learned a number of things as they scoured the parts of the ship they could reach. It seemed that they were confined to decks A through C. C deck was as far down as they would be able to go, however. The reason being that D deck was completely submerged. Strangely, however, the water had risen no higher than D deck. The flow seemed to have been stopped somehow, as evidenced by the surface of the water on D deck, which was as smooth as glass. The prince knelt down and gently drew his hand across it. Perhaps the Zero fellow had some sort of remote control to seal a watertight door lower down. He said that our time limit was 9 hours. In other words, this water won't rise for 9 hours. You're saying we don't sink till then? Well, that may be a little too optimistic. No point into wishful thinking. There were 3 metal doors on C deck. A single door stood off to the side, with 2 more on the wall facing the central staircase. None of them had numbers or verification devices. They were, however, locked from the other doors. Like the other doors. No matter how much they pushed and shoved, the doors refused to move. The mountain lion threw themselves against them a few times, but to no avail. The door in the back had a keyhole. Just above it was a strange mark in the shape of a circle surrounding a dot. There were 2 other doors on C deck as well, but it was clear that they were elevators, as each had a button next to it with an upside-down triangle. They tried pushing the button, but no response. Apparently, there was no power running to the elevators. To the left of the elevators was a card reader. The card reader also had a strange mark on it. It looked like a lowercase h, with a dash drawn across the upper stem of the H. Junpei stared at it for a while. This is a symbol of Saturn. It's an astrological symbol. Then the mark on the other door. I think that was the sun symbol. They had seen the same symbols on A deck. There was a door on either side of the stairs. The one on the left had a keyhole with a similar symbol engraved on it. This is the Earth symbol. The horizontal line symbolizes the equator, and the vertical line represents the prime... meridian. Wait. Yeah, I totally messed it up. Meridian? Whatever. Junpei looked up at the ceiling. I want to say Mandarin, but I guess I'm stupid. Whatever. It reminded me of that word. There was a great circle cut in it, perhaps for a skylight or a glass dome, but had been filled with a gargantuan metal plate. The metal looked very solid. Anything short of an explosive charge was unlikely to damage it. There were several windows along both sides of the ship, or at least there had been. They too were covered with metal plates. In other words, there's no way out. We're trapped. All the exits go nowhere. Junpei was not happy. No dog. The girl with pink hair spoke up. Well, I'm sure they go somewhere. We just can't open them. And then Mountain spoke. You don't know that. For all we know, they were just open into walls or take us in a circle. The prince did not agree. No, I'm sure they go somewhere. Otherwise, what point would there be? And we can open them. Well, 2 of them at least. You mean the numbered doors? All eyes turned toward the doors with numbers on them. The atmosphere in the room grew very tense. Hey, wait a minute! I think I said this earlier, but I don't think we should do that! The dancer moved in front of the doors, as if to block them. We'd have to be crazy to open these doors. If we do that, we're doing exactly what Zero wants us to do. Suddenly, everyone began to speak at once. I agree. I don't. It's a terrible idea. We should keep going. We should stay here. We don't have any other way to open any of these doors. We should just wait. Someone is bound to come find us. We don't have time for that. In 8.5 hours, this ship is going to sink. The clamor of voices made it next to impossible to determine who was saying what. The arguments grew more and more intense until people were shouting and screaming at one another. Junpei had remained silent, but at last he could take no more. Hey! Shut up! They fell silent, and all eyes turned to Junpei. He felt each stare burning into him, but he refused to flinch. Before we try and decide where we're going to go, or there's something else we ought to do. What's that? We need to exchange information. We don't know anything about each other. I want to know who you guys are. Who you are, where you came from, and why you ended up here. Don't tell me you aren't curious too. They were silent. Some of them looked the other way, or bit their lip, or crossed their arms and stared at the ceiling. But one of them did speak up. It was Akane. I agree. I think Jumpy is right. Jumpy? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about him. I just call him Jumpy. His name is Junpei. She's pointing toward Junpei. We're childhood friends. We went to the same elementary school. Wait, stop! Don't tell us stuff we didn't ask you about. Zero's probably watching us right now. What are you gonna do if he's listening in? Would that be bad? Hell yeah, it would! We don't know how much about that bastard knows. We don't know how much that bastard knows about us. Maybe he just picked a bunch of random people to kidnap. If that's the case, then it'd be dangerous for us to let him know too much. If Zero knows who we are, he can go after our families. Maybe he tell us he had to get to. God, I messed up that sentence. Maybe he'd tell us he had them to get us to do stuff. You know, my God, no, whatever. But we still need to know what our names are. It's gonna be hard to talk to each other if we don't know names. Alright, then why do we have code names? To him, apparently, it seemed like the obvious solution. Code names? Yeah, we'll each pick something. Like, I'll be 7. 7? Why are you 7? Seemed a fair question. The mountain struck out his left arm. Because his bracelet number says 7. Oh, I get it. Yeah, that's a good idea. He smirked. Alright, I'm gonna be Santa. Any of you chumps know Japanese? No? Well, San means 3, so I'll be Santa. You know like Santa Claus? Fits, don't you think? Then your bracelet number. Yeah, it's got a 3 on it. Good job, Grandpa. Just like the mountain had done, Silver thrust out his left hand. Sure enough, the face of the bracelet read 3. Very well then. I'll go next, shall I? My bracelet number is 1. Given that, I think Ace seems appropriate. I'll be Lotus then. As I'm sure you all know, it has 8 petals, which means, of course, that my bracelet number is 8. I would appreciate if you would call me Snake. Snake? Metal Gear! My bracelet number is 2. Since Ace, has chosen cards, and I assume dice, Snake Eyes, clearly, which is particularly relevant given that I am blind. Blind? Really? He kept his eyes closed during their entire ordeal, which has suggested something strange, but to hear it said so casually, it was something of a surprise. Everyone seemed a little nervous at the prince's proclamation, but no one seemed to know how to react to it. There was one person, however, who didn't seem to be surprised in the least. A girl with pink hair. I want to be Clover. You know, like a 4-leaf clover. Good luck, right? Looking almost bored, she held out her left hand. The face of her bracelet showed the number 4. They'd come around to Junpei. He held his bracelet, which of course is a 5. Alright, my number's 5, so my code name is gonna be... Well, I have one. It's not like there's any point to it now. His answer cut him off in mid-sentence. I mean, we all know your name already. You're Junpei. Oh. They all nodded. I kind of stepped forward, nervously. Then you should all call me by my name, too. Because, I mean, it doesn't seem fair to Jumpy. You're thinking it's not cool for you to hide your name after you told us his? I kind of fidgeted awkwardly. Junpei decided he had to do something. What's your bracelet number? It's 6. She hesitated for a moment, then held out her left hand. As she claimed, the bracelet's face showed a 6. Junpei looked at it for a moment and thought, Alright then why don't we call you June? June? Yeah, you know, it's the 6th month of the year. So you're June. Jumpy kind of kneaded her hands and looked up at Junpei, uncertain. He smiled back at her reassuringly. Are you good with that? She thought about it for a few more minutes, then seemed to come to a decision and gave Junpei a small nod. Their names decided, Junpei ran over them quickly in his head. 1 was Ace. 2 was Snake. 3 was Santa. 4 was Clover. 5 was Junpei's number. Akane was 6, and Junpei had given her the codename of June. 7 was 7, and 8 was Lotus. That meant that 8 of them, including Junpei, had revealed their bracelet numbers, but there was still one person left. He was the man with glasses and hair like a bird's nest. He hadn't said anything since they met on the stairs, and he didn't look like the sort of person who was inclined to conversation. His skin was pale, his breathing was heavy, and he was soaked with nervous sweat. His behavior seemed very suspicious, or perhaps slightly emotionally unstable. Difficult to tell. Whatever the case, it seemed clear that he had a fingertip's worth of a grip on his sanity. The girl with pink hair, Clover, walked up to him slowly. She put her hands on her hips and eyed him suspiciously. "What number are you?" He didn't answer. His bloodshot eyes twitched from person to person. His breath came in hot pants. "Hey, I'm talking to you!" The man licked his dry lips with a shaking tongue and spoke with a voice like old paper. "Isn't it obvious? There are 9 people here, and you know who numbers 1 and 8 are. I'm the only one left." "So you're 9? "Yeah." He extended a trembling arm. The bracelet did indeed say 9. Clover looked at it contemptuously. "What's your code name?" Code name? What do you want us to call you? We all made up names. You should too. I don't need one. Why not? Because I'm not gonna stay here with you. He took a shuddering breath and exhaled. Clover looked at him with something very like disgust. "You've got some sort of plan?" "I do." "Yeah? And what's that?" "You sure you want to know?" "Yeah?" "Alright. Let me show you. I'm gonna do this!" Ah! By the time he realized what he was doing, it was too late to stop him. The man's body moved like a snake's. In the blink of an eye, he had slid around her and wrapped his arm around her waist. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Silver, Santa, leapt forward toward Clover and the 9th man. He was halfway there when... "Stay back!" Suddenly, the man's hand dove into his pocket. It came out back with a knife. A pocket knife. He held it to Clover's pale, quivering neck. "If you get any closer, I'll cut her open!" Wow. How about, we call this an episode, guys, because... Well, damn, I thought we were all getting buddy-buddy with everybody here, and then you come up with the 9th guy, and... Well, he's a psychopathic bastard who took one of us hostage. That's not good. What else is gonna happen? God only knows. It's one of the best parts of playing this game blind. I don't know what the hell's gonna happen. I'm very interested right now. I'm getting a little worried about her, though. It's just kind of freaking me out, but, hopefully everything will go okay. We'll see. Who knows? So, as usual, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for Let's Play 999. I'll see you guys later.